Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve, and now that the initial pain of last game week's terrible performance has worn off, I'm looking forward to game week 9 and what my potential moves will be. So today we will revisit the Foden decision to garner anything that we've learned from the benching against Wolves. We'll also cover what to do with Saka, given he missed this morning's Champions League fixture. And we'll also take a look at which asset I'm eyeing up out of Son and Palmer for this game week's transfer in. So remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, especially if you get any value out of the following content. Right, so the Foden disappointment. So Foden always had a chance to be benched for either Wolves or Southampton, given the Champions League was about this week. Now, this is obviously part of the risk that I did run with bringing Foden in to start with. However, with KDB out, I had increased the likelihood of Foden starting the Wolves fixture, given his creativity and goal threat is something that I think City have been lacking over the last couple of game weeks. Now, given Foden was benched for game week 8, it does point to Foden starting in the Champions League fixture tomorrow. And given that I did get that starting prediction wrong in game week 8, I am now more nervous about the team sheet for the Southampton fixture this weekend because there is still a slim chance that Pep may bench him again. Obviously, though, I will be playing Foden regardless because even if he is benched, I still think he has a great shot to come on in the later stages of that match and do some damage. I am still predicting Foden to start, by the way, so I'm not actually trying to say that I think that he is more likely to be benched against Southampton. I am just talking through the worst case situation here in which Foden doesn't start for the second Premier League game running. However, if this worst case scenario does happen, I will be reassessing Foden next week with a bit more or a lot more ruthlessness in game week 10, meaning I will probably just end up selling him straight away if he happens to be benched for the second consecutive Premier League game. And also, on a slight tangent, I do not think this is a situation where I have made my bed and so I must now lie in it. I very rarely like slogans like this, and this one is actually no different. We've always got options as fantasy managers, and a statement like this leads to people blindly doubling down on mistakes. And we should always be reassessing our moves each week as new information comes to light. And although I might have got the start prediction incorrect for Foden last game week, this mistake does put me one step closer to figuring out how Pep selects his team each week, as this is a key lesson to learn. Now, if the learning that you do take away from making a mistake like this is to simply avoid attempting anything like this again in future, I don't actually think you've taken the right learning away from the lesson. Avoidance is very rarely the correct answer. Also, Foden did score 230 points last season, making him an asset that we shouldn't be blanketly ignoring. However, a slogan I can get behind is no guts, no glory. Or to keep it a little bit more relatable to football, if you don't shoot, you can't score. Now, the Foden benching won't deter me from making moves like this in future. I will simply be adding this lesson to my reservoir of knowledge in order to help me predict the City team sheet moving forward. All right, what do we do with Saka? Now, Saka didn't play the Shakhtar Donetsk match this morning, and I've got absolutely no idea as to whether or not he's going to be playing against Liverpool this weekend. Liverpool is also not the type of game where I want to be gambling on a start that is dependent on an injury, especially an injury that we have little insight into exactly how bad that injury is. Also, to revisit Arteta's press conference statement prior to the Bournemouth fixture, which actually led me to holding on to Saka, Arteta said that they were hopeful about Saka being able to make it for the Bournemouth fixture last weekend. Now, considering he hasn't even made the team sheet nearly half a week later, it does show that he was nowhere near ready for that Bournemouth fixture. Now, Arteta is known for being deceptive, and this is case and point made right here. Saka clearly had no chance of making it for Bournemouth, and so I will be very much keeping an eye out for any future statements that come from Arteta where he uses a keyword like hopeful. I will probably take that to mean that he is almost certainly not going to make it, and I will move him on accordingly in future. This week, I will be selling Saka because even though, well, doesn't really matter what Arteta says this weekend, I will not be believing what he says, and £10 million is just too much money to have sitting on the bench 2 game weeks in a row, especially with multiple other premiums floating about that could do damage in game week 9. Now, unfortunately, this is a bit of an annoying transfer out because I will probably want Saka back in game week 12. So Arsenal actually go top of my fixture ticker from game week 12 with a fixture run of Forest at home, West Ham away, United at home, Fulham away, Everton at home, Palace away, Ipswich at home, Brentford away, Brighton away. I mean, that's just an insane run of fixtures, and so I will very much be wanting an Arsenal attacker for that run of fixtures. So in selling Saka this week, it does actually open the door for Havertz in a couple of game weeks' time, which is something that is worth considering. Having said that, though, Chelsea are second top on my fixture ticker from game week 12, and I am starting to covet Nicholas Jackson in my Solanke spot. So who knows who I will actually have by game week 12. Chelsea's run of fixtures are incredible as well. Leicester away, Villa at home, Southampton away. Okay, Tottenham away is probably a little bit tricky, but that Tottenham are just all out attack at the moment, and so that should be an end-to-end fixture. Brentford at home, Everton away, Fulham at home, Ipswich away, Crystal Palace away. I mean, that's another really sick run of fixtures. So I thought I would just put a couple of tentative moves forward for things that I am thinking about, because that does also affect who I might be bringing in for game week 9. So the 2 main assets that I am looking at is Palmer or Son. Now, I'm not actually going to be splitting hairs over which player I think is better. Both are extraordinary footballers with similar ceilings in terms of FPL points potential. Now, looking longer term, especially at that run of Chelsea fixtures from game week 12, I am definitely going to want Cole Palmer in my squad. Now, if we roll back the fixture ticket to starting this game week in game week 9, Chelsea's immediate 3 fixtures look a little bit tricky on paper. However, 2 of the 3 hard games are at home against Newcastle and Arsenal. That Arsenal game will obviously be tough. However, the next 2, Newcastle at home and then Manchester United away, I don't think are actually that bad of a set of fixtures, especially for someone like Cole Palmer. Now, if you're new to the channel, I had already tentatively planned in Cole Palmer to come in for Saka in game week 9 in order to avoid the Liverpool fixture for Saka this game week. Now, the main thing that has changed is that Son is now back fit and firing and looking in form in the 60 minutes he did get in his first game back for Spurs last weekend. I did sit down and watch that whole game, and Son was looking very, very good. I was about to say very tasty, but it's probably not the right descriptive word there. So for my team, the Son versus Palmer decision actually comes down to the future plans that I have for my team, not about whether I think Palmer or Son is the better footballer or the better asset. So if I did buy Son this game week for Saka, that would mean I would have Son and Foden in my team for the next couple of game weeks, which will almost certainly induce a hit somewhere in and around game week 12 in order to get Palmer and my third Arsenal attacker, or Arsenal player, sorry, not my third attacker, my third Arsenal player, back into the squad. Because I do not want to go without Palmer and an Arsenal attacker once we get to game week 12. So the question comes down to, do I think Son plus a future hit will outscore Palmer in this game week, in game week 9? So why am I limiting the hit calculation to this game week when it will actually be a future hit that I will need to take somewhere in and around game week 12? Well, the general rule of thumb is that I do think that hits should probably be assessed in the game week that they are taken, as it does get much too complicated or way more complex to try and gauge whether or not a hit is effective over a number of game weeks, because many things come into play, like the value that's tied up, the order in which assets move around within your team, and it just gets way too hard to figure out. So it's basically just down to this game week alone. Now, Son's next 3 fixtures are better than Chelsea's 3 fixtures on paper, as they have Palace away, Villa at home, and Ipswich at home, versus Palmer's run of Newcastle at home, United away, and Arsenal at home. So this is why I am tentatively looking at Son this game week. So given that this will cost a future hit, I basically need to figure out whether I think Son will outscore Palmer in this game week by at least a goal in order to make this play worthwhile. And even if Son does outscore Palmer this game week by a goal, it would only put my team up by about 2 points or so after the hit. So this would assume that, say, Palmer blanks and Son gets a goal, or Palmer scores a goal and Son gets a brace or something like that. There's also the value to consider, as Palmer is going up in value. And so if I do delay buying Palmer, I will be buying him at a more expensive price in a few game weeks' time as well. And so if I put those two things together, I don't actually think Son is worth the gamble this week. Plus, I am expecting the Chelsea vs Newcastle fixture to be quite an entertaining affair, as both teams do have defensive frailties right now. So I don't actually see this as a terrible game for Palmer, and it is a game in which I think he could return multiple attacking returns. Son does have the better immediate fixtures, and he does outscore Palmer over this run of 3 fixtures. But like I said, that is quite hard to gauge over a series of multiple game weeks, and so I am just trying to assess this in the Son against Crystal Palace and Chelsea against Newcastle immediate game week, this game week. Right, so I'll be bringing Palmer in Probably tomorrow I'm going to wait for the final set of Champions League games to complete, just to make sure that there's no big injuries to any players that may change or alter my decisions. Now, assuming that nothing big does come out of the remaining Champions League games this week, that will make this the final video this game week, unless, of course, something big happens, and then I will do a video on Friday. So if there are no big injuries, I'll be bringing Palmer in, and I will be captaining Haaland this weekend against Southampton. There's nothing else really to consider there. It doesn't matter that Haaland has blanked the last 3 game weeks running. I will 110% be captaining Haaland against Southampton for Game Week 9. So good luck to all of you for Game Week 9. Hopefully I regain all the ground I lost last weekend with some big scores from the players that I am planning to bring in. And all right, well, that wraps up this video. So don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a comment to tell us what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.